Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I am Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. Today, we have an exclusive interview with David Rodriguez from the Leaning Left Show. Um, Brilliant man, got a great show. You need to check it out, and he is with us here today live. David, hello. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Paul. How are you doing?
Awesome, awesome. So, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am I'm living in the Pacific Northwest. It's a very blue area, although I think my town is maybe a little more red than the areas around it, which is, it is what it is. But a couple years ago, I started doing a YouTube channel based on board games because I'm a big nerd, and so I really enjoy board games, and so that's been really fun. And one day I kind of got to the point where I was getting kind of frustrated that it's been really hard for me if I wanted to participate in the political scene in any way. Like I couldn't go and do protests. It's hard for me to volunteer and do any things. And I was trying to figure out anything I could do to do more than just share snarky memes on Facebook. So I decided to start the Leaning Left show, which lets me get some stuff off my mind and hopefully, provide some insight to people if they're trying to make some sense of some of the craziness that goes on out there or the craziness that they're seeing, because there's an awful lot of that. So I'll talk about current event sort of things, and then also I will find really awful Republican memes, and I will focus on those and poke as many holes in them as I can. And that's probably really messing up my search algorithm, I imagine, because I'm going to get all kinds of terrible things happening because I'm looking these things up, I'm sure. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now. I want to do some shows about like things that the right has co-opted, because there's lots of words and symbols and even ideas that they've managed to somehow make a right wing thing, even though it really belongs to all of us. And maybe even spotlight some of the really insane tweets I see on a day to day basis, because wow, it's impressive out there. It's really something. So, but yeah, no, it's been great because I really feel like I can, get these thoughts out to the world. And so far, it's a brand new channel, so I don't have a ton of subscribers yet. And I'd say about 99.9 of the percent of the comments I've gotten have all been from very right wing folks. But that's funny because they're actually kind of helping out my channel because they're interacting with it. So I mean,
Yes.
thanks, I
Yes.
guess. So
Yes. Okay, so before you became a podcaster on YouTube, what did you do before that?
so so as you mean as like a profession?
Yes, yeah, as a
Okay.
profession.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am a mail carrier up here in Washington, which not the most glamorous job, but it's kind of nice because I get to drive around and listen to podcasts all day long, which is great. I've done a lot of retail management previous to that. I've worked in a staffing agency as someone who helps people find jobs, which is really nice. So I mean, yeah, I've done a few things like that. I've decided I don't want to go into management in the post office because wow, that is just dealing with angry people all day all day long, and so it doesn't sound like fun. I think it's a lot easier to just go out there and drive around in the sometimes nice weather. I'd rather do that, I think.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. And thanks you because people like you make sure that people like me get my mail.
Well, I
So,
definitely try. I definitely try to.
yes, yes, yes. All right. So, we talked about your YouTube channel, Leaning Left, and that's
Right.
where you go over the memes. So, for those that are watching and all that, here's the YouTube channel. So what got you started in doing that? Why did you decide to pick apart memes instead of just going political like a lot of these other podcasters?
Uh, you know, I I'm connected to a few people who are very far right of me. And so every once in a while I will see something pop up and it's just insane. Like I'm talking about on social media. These are people who are connected to me via, secondhand relatives, that sort of thing. So I don't really want to get into like a battle
Right.
with them because it's just not worth extra drama.
Right.
It's whatever.
Right.
It's fine. I'm not going to change their minds anyway. But so many of them, you look at it and you'd be like, well, this is just uh, everything in this is based on nonsense, or the arguments don't really make sense if you think about them for even like a minute. And it always kind of drove me nuts because you can't. I mean, if you go in the comments of anyone who posts something like that, again, it's just you're going to start this big battle that you may or may not want to bother with. So, I decided that would be kind of a fun thing for me to do besides just doing current events. Cause the problem is I don't, live stream like you do. So I have to record and then edit and then get it out. So unless I pick something that is really ongoing, if I do a current event episode, which I still do sometimes, it's like by the time I get it out, things go so fast that it may not even be relevant anymore. So I have to pick and choose those a little more carefully, but there's a million right-wing memes out there. And one thing I always talk about when I start those episodes, because it never fails it shouldn't shock me, but it does, is I'll look up conservative memes, and the amount of them that have a basis in racism is incredible. Like so many of them. I mean, they're not usually like the super blunt, outright, using racial slurs and all that, but the things that they're implying
Right.
are so rooted in that it's awful, frankly. But I haven't even tackled one of those yet, honestly, and I will at some point. But I've just kind of gone for some other ones that were ridiculous to me. And it's a way to kind of show people what people on the right are sort of thinking, like their ideas of what makes sense as a good argument for their point of view, and try to talk about how those arguments don't really work, because then if you actually are in an argument with somebody, if they blindside you with this idea, you kind of maybe have something in your head that maybe you'll be a little more ready for, or maybe you just think it's fun to watch someone pick these apart because God, it's easy. I mean, I can't say it's not like a ton of work to pick them apart. It's just to me, so much of it is plainly obvious that it's just me commenting on the things I see. And I would love for people to come into the comments if they see something else that I'm missing. I'd love to hear that. But again, so far it's people trying to be threatening me by saying that I should go get boosted, like as if they were saying go jump off a cliff. Like, yeah, I will get boosted. Thanks. Like it's bizarre, man. It's really
No,
bizarre.
I know. See, here's what's funny is I'm an independent. Okay.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I get criticism for that. Pick a side. No, that's why I don't have a side. Okay.
Right.
I am a leftist, I am a
Right.
progressive, and I am a socialist. Okay.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
don't like either party because
Right.
they're both sides are hypocritical. Both sides throw out propaganda, and I'm a free thinker. I like to find a problem and come up with a solution. So I don't pick sides. And when I see a lot of those things that like you're talking about, one of the things that like this last election, I was a vote blue no matter who,
Right.
because you are right. The racist rhetoric that is coming out of the right has just gotten really, really bad. And I'm not saying just because you're on the right, you're a racist. I'm not saying that. Okay.
Right.
What I am saying is that the racists tend to pick the right.
Right.
Okay. They
Yeah.
tend to follow the right. They tend to vote for the right. And I just wish that the good people that are on the right would start standing up to it, kind of like
Mhm.
Liz Cheney. When people are doing
Right.
wrong, come at them. I don't
Yeah.
agree with a lot of her policies and politics, but hey, she's standing up for what's right. Um, let's go to your other channel that you were talking about, All
Sure.
Games New and Old. So tell me a little bit about that, and then we will go into some politics.
Okay, great. So, yeah, I don't remember how long ago it was. I want to say maybe between 10 and 15 years ago. I became aware of hobby board games. So it's the stuff that you don't well, now you can find it at Target, but it's not the kind of stuff that you usually think of. It's not your, Monopoly and Uno and that sort of thing. Um, and I didn't even know these things really existed for a long time, but there's like over 1,000 of these games that come out every year, and a lot of them kind of fall um, out of people's minds because there's so many other things. But they've taken a lot of the things that were kind of not that fun in those older games and figured out, okay, well, let's make games that don't do that. So take Monopoly, for instance. You have to roll your dice to move. And so it's all just lucky. Whatever you land on is what happens. That could be kind of not fun. And also Monopoly it can be a very long game, and you can know early on that you're going to lose, but you're still stuck in this game for, God knows how long. And so a lot of the games now, they kind of work around that. And so I just kind of fell in love with it as a hobby. The components are getting more and more impressive as time goes on. I mean, they're just the crazy production values on them are insane. And combine that with I used to be, I mean, I still do, but I used to be more of like a video game player. But it's gotten to the point now where you can't really sit next to somebody and play a game with them very much. There's not many games that do that. So you don't have the face-to-face interaction at all. And with the board games, you can actually have that, which is a lot of fun. And so I kind of decided, well, there's a lot of people doing reviews, but everyone has their different preferences, and it's possible that my taste will mix with somebody out there. So I started doing reviews and unboxings, and I started doing interviews as well, where we, I'll get to know the person, then we'll have a little sort of debate about some not very controversial thing in board gaming, because people will fight about everything under the sun, and a lot of them are ultimately like, not real serious issues. I don't want anyone to take on in that setting an issue that actually is serious or could be hurtful to someone, because I don't want them to say those things. But if it's something that's kind of like, is this kind of game better than that kind of game? You know what I mean?
Right.
That sort of thing. And those are fun. And we just come up with the most ridiculous arguments that we can to try to win over whoever watches. So yeah, it's just been fun, and it's been great because that's really where my original Twitter account was. And so the community there is just really awesome. So many really nice, really supportive people that love the same things I do, which helps. But just really fantastic. It has its drama like any community does, but overall it's pretty good. And I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed doing that. And it's done okay. It's not like this mega popular channel, but it's doing reasonably well, and I can't complain about it.
Do you have fun with it?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing, is I don't want it to feel like it's a job or like a duty that I have to do it. I didn't promise any particular release schedule. I've kind of kept to one to keep myself going and not let it go too long without anything happening. But the important thing to me is that I enjoy it, because I'm nowhere near getting monetized. It's not like I'm getting a dime for this stuff.
Right.
So as long as I'm having fun, I'll keep doing it. If that changes, I'll probably stop. But right now, it's great.
Right. And that's where a lot of us are when we're just starting out here on like YouTube or even Twitter or whatever. There's no monetization. Right. And what I do, I don't get paid for any of this that I do, but I do it because I love doing it, and make note that even though I'm very political when I'm on Twitter, okay, that's where I get the most political. A lot of my YouTube stuff that I do doesn't get very political at all. Every once in a while, I'll do a exclusive interview and I'll get political with somebody. But most of my shows, I have 2 shows that are on writing. One show that's on spirituality, comedy and controversy. We're kind of getting into the politics there with a lot of the comedians, past, present, and future. I'm going to start a stoicism space, or channel or segment. So I like to bring people together from all different atmospheres. And, this is one of the reasons why I really enjoy having you on here, because even though you're doing something that's political, you also have something that's fun that you're doing, all games new and old. So I'm going to ask you about a game, an old game, Risk. It's like my favorite board game.
Right.
What do you think about Risk?
Okay, well, it's been a minute since I played it, just to let you know. Actually, that's one of the ones that I think actually still holds up pretty well. Like some some of those older games I know I was kind of knocking on Monopoly. And by the way, like I'm not like a snob about this. If people love Monopoly, that's fantastic. Like very cool. Go enjoy it. But that one has, I think, a few more, a little bit more sensibilities that match with the more modern games that have come out. And there is, I don't know if you've heard of this. There is a game called Risk Legacy. Have you seen that at all?
I have heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Okay. So at its core, it's basically just Risk. Okay. So what you need to do is say, okay, I'm going to find people that will play this regularly with me. And so you play your game of Risk. And depending on how that goes, things are going to change on the map. Like areas might be destroyed or be taken over by someone else, or something else might happen. Various people's, sides may have bonuses to them or things that are a detriment to them. And so then you play your next game, and the story, because there's like a story to it that continues. And depending on how that game goes, it evolves further. And so the only thing is you can only play it through the campaign once, because you're putting like stickers on the board and writing on things. And maybe even, I don't remember if you tear up cards in that game or not, but you might. So you play through this campaign just once, and it's kind of over after that. But it's a cool experience. And now there's legacy versions of a lot of other games as well. But that was the first one that I know of that was like that. And it made the whole thing popular because people love Risk. They remember Risk, and so doing it in this new, kind of strange way really caught on with a lot of people.
Nice. Yeah. See, now I don't have my Xbox set up, but when I did, I used to play Risk on Xbox. Like I said, it's my favorite game as far as board games go.
Sure.
I always prefer to get out the board game, and I know all those little tedious pieces, but I love it. I love it. Risk is one of my favorite games. Now,
sure.
Just to add on to this game stuff and all that, what makes all these games a lot more fun? I was in the casino industry for 20 plus years.
Oh boy. Okay.
What a lot of us used to do is we used to get together and we would play these board games with real money.
Okay.
Okay. So, how you have your $1 bill? That would be 1
Right.
cent. Your $5 bill, 5 cents. So basically, your $500 bill is $5, and you buy-in would be like $100. You got 8 people that are playing, so you got an $800 pot. So yes, it gets really, really fun and interesting. And these games go a little bit faster. You might sit there for 4 or 5 hours, but they tend to go a little bit faster, and winner take all.
Yeah.
Those were my favorite games.
You're a braver man than I. Well, part of the problem is I don't usually actually win at games. Like I love playing them, but I'm not good at them. So that's just asking me to go broke faster, and I already spend too much money on the dang things when I buy them. So I think the last thing I need is to also lose money when I play them. That's just, I don't think I could do it, man.
Yes, those were the good old days. All right. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So some recent topics that I've seen. You've heard about Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene being, put forward to these different committees and stuff. But instead of talking about the committees and things, they had a squabble in the bathroom.
I heard something happened, but I never got details on this. So you might have to inform me exactly what happened here.
Well, apparently it was about supporting McCarthy and all of that stuff. But on Twitter, one of the things that have been going out is who would win in a fight, Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think Greene would win, but
yeah, I think so too. Boebert is, I think, a little bit younger. She looks like she is anyway. Which maybe her endurance is better. I'm not sure, but Greene, I think she's powered by pure hatred and animosity, and I think it's like an almost never-ending supply with her. So I feel like she would just like blitz, poor Lauren Boebert, and just splatter her all over the countryside if it came to it. It would just I don't think Boebert would last very long in that battle if it came down to it. I really wish they had Celebrity Deathmatch, because I would, if that was still on, I would love to see them do this because that would be fantastic.
Yes, it would. It would. All right, all right. So I'm gonna quit picking on Republicans and all that.
I mean, you can. That's fine.
Yes, I know. The debt ceiling.
Right.
It's like 31 point whatever trillion.
Yeah.
Where's all that money going? That seems to be one of the biggest concerns. Um, One of the things that I have a problem with, and again, it wouldn't matter to me which administration, whether it was on the left or on the right,
Sure.
we have homelessness in this country. We have
Hmm.
poverty in this country. Why aren't we addressing these issues? Why are we throwing money into other countries? And granted, I support Ukraine. I support
Right.
Ukraine. But if we're gonna print up all of this money like we're doing, why can't we fix some of the problems that we have here at home?
I mean, we should be. I think, there's things like we pour a lot of money into our military, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't put any money in there because that's insane too. But we do a lot more than we should. We build planes that are not even used just because they have the money to do so. I don't know if it's a matter of they have to use it or they won't get it again, like it is with a lot of police, you know, departments and whatnot. But I'm guessing it's something like that. But we're kind of flushing money down the toilet on a lot of stuff that isn't necessary. I'm fully okay with us supporting Ukraine, however much they need, because I think that particular battle over there is such a clear case of uh, black and white, good versus evil, in my opinion. That I feel like it's fairly justified, but Lord knows we've been in a lot of conflicts that we didn't have to really be in. Uh, oh boy, have we? So I think that's a good. I think we should. I think the problem is that as much as that seems like a really obvious thing to do, uh, we have, in my opinion, we got the party on the right over here who puts the kibosh on anything that seems to help anybody who's struggling. So even if the Democrats or anyone came up with this idea that would help them, I think that in order to get it passed, it would get whittled down so much by the people on the right to make it actually happen that I don't know. It would probably still be helpful, but I don't think it'd be what it could be. I mean, we could, I think, with some budgeting, of course, build housing for everyone who needs a home, and we have empty houses everywhere. I mean, right
Mhm.
now, that's like we probably could house everybody right now.
Yeah,
But
we could.
the thing is, though, is that it's kind of like the student loan forgiveness thing, right? Where I mean, that's great. That's going to be good for the economy. These people who went through college are going to have money to spend on. It's going to help a lot of things. But the people who went through college, mostly on the right, who didn't get that, are basically deciding that's not fair. Like, oh, we're so mad because we didn't have that. Why should they? And it's kind of the same thing. Like, well, I had to work and do all this stuff for my home. Why should we just hand a home to them? That's going to be their argument there.
Mhm.
And it should be as simple as, well, it's the right thing to do because these are Americans who are suffering on the street. Like that, it should be that easy. Because if I don't know exactly how this situation would play out, but if some leader in a foreign country made Americans live that way, we'd be furious at that leader.
Mhm.
That would be reasons to go to war, perhaps, depending on the scale. But when we do it, the right's all on board for the most part. Maybe some people on the left are too, but definitely the right's on board with that. So even though we have everything we need to make that happen, it's going to be nearly impossible to actually do it. Uh, I think unless the people on the left get a majority, like a vast majority of the control in this country, then maybe it can happen. Although we still have a matter of there's people on the left who aren't really all that far left. You know, like our far left is most other countries' status quo. So our moderate left is really kind of to the right by a lot of
Mhm.
countries. So even then, I feel like fixing that sort of issue, I don't know if I'm going to see that in my lifetime, even though it seems like an obvious fix. You know, if we had more people who are probably like, you know, AOC and some of the other younger people, if that was the majority of what we had, I think we could do it. But without that, I'm not sure it's happening anytime soon.
No, you're absolutely correct on that. It's not going to happen anytime soon. Where the problem comes in is it comes back to critical thinking. This isn't even about left and right. It's about
Right.
critical thinking. All right.
Mhm.
Because both sides put the propaganda out.
Yep.
Okay. And think about this. The left is supposed to be the humanitarian party, and the right is supposed to be the property party. Okay.
Right.
And the left, if it was truly the humanitarian party, there's been 4 times in the last 120 years that things like Roe v. Wade could have been codified, a true equal rights
Mhm.
amendment could have been codified. Um, we could have abolished and ended homelessness and poverty in this country. We've had the ability to do so, but it's not about that. It's about making money. Okay.
Right.
So
Yep.
let me take it back a second now. I'm going to go
Yeah.
back to Ukraine and Russia. All right.
Sure.
Now, let's forget about parties. Let's just
Sure.
eliminate
Let's do it.
parties and let's use critical thinking on what is right and what is wrong. All right. You have one country that comes into another country saying, "This is mine." Now, the United States, should we or should we not interject, and why?
Okay. I'm going to say we should, and I'm going to say that with a caveat that I understand that there could be a lot of drawbacks to this, um, without a doubt. We're talking about, in this case, antagonizing someone who has a nuclear arsenal and someone who at least talks like he's willing to use it, right? I don't know if he actually is. Who knows what's going on in that man's head? But it's important for the world to, if the world's going to reach a level that even kind of approaches the kind of lofty idea of world peace, right? I'm getting
Mhm.
kind of out there with this, but we need to have countries that have democracy in place that do not get overthrown by people like Putin. And if Putin starts advancing successfully into Ukraine, he's not going to stop when he gets like the few territories that he claimed initially. He's going to keep going until he has all of it. If he gets all of that, it may be a while, but he'll start encroaching elsewhere too. I can't imagine him not doing that. Like that, it it doesn't even make sense to me that he would not continue after that point. Because once he's gotten successful, he's just going to want to get more.
Okay.
So we have the people in Ukraine who are putting up an amazing fight. Had no I had no idea that they would hold out the way they have and even have the success that they've had. It's incredible. But and I hope they keep doing that. But I am all for helping them at least get the weapons that they need to handle the situation. I'm not saying that we need to put troops on the ground out there, but that's not even what they're asking for. They're asking for, the kinds of weapons they need to, handle the Russian tanks and whatnot. And I'm 100% for that because I just think things get worse for us in the long run if we don't. I think saying, well, okay, we're just not going to do that and let the pieces fall where they may, or just give them what we have so far and hope they can deal with that. I don't think it's a long-term good strategy. I think it'll come back around to bite us if we don't help them win against Putin.
Okay. Now let's forget about who the leaders are and who the countries are.
Mhm.
One country coming into another saying, I'm claiming it as mine. Is that where the issue's at?
That's part of it. That's certainly, it's hard to say because this is also intertwined with each other now, but that
Mhm.
is kind of a big deal when you have a country that is essentially a dictatorship. They have elections, but they're complete shams, right? Like there's no way Putin's getting 99.6% of the vote or whatever. And like, no. So you have this encroachment of a dictatorship, essentially, which is bad enough if they just came and threatened and say, hey, we're taking this. What are you going to do? And if they, surrendered and they took it, not great. Okay. But now we're talking about, war crimes. Like they are blatantly killing civilians left and right. And that's really the main line here, I think. Like if it was just that initial situation, I said maybe we could stay out of it and feel okay about that.
Mhm.
But when they're launching missiles at apartment buildings and whatnot, and Ukraine is our allies too. It's not like we have like any kind of negative issue with them.
Right.
I think we have a duty to do that.
Let me throw it a different way to you. Let's
Okay.
say Russia was a democracy just like the United States.
Okay.
All right. And let's say we liked Putin. Let's say Putin was a good guy. All right. And he decided to do this to the Ukraine. And let's say the Ukraine, the leader of the Ukraine, is how we view Putin with that kind of government. Would it be okay then?
Wow, this is a tough one. I give you credit for that one. The thing is, I don't think it's ever really a good thing for countries to be going and taking over parts of other countries. You know
Bingo.
what I mean?
Okay.
Like, I
There. Hold on, because
yeah,
that's what I wanted to get to. It doesn't
yeah,
matter who's good or who's bad. So let's just throw all of that out the window because that is irrelevant. It's
right,
about one country coming in and taking another country's land, claiming it for their own.
yeah,
Now, the United States gave Israel, and they have been taking land from the Palestinians for decades. Why is the United States okay with that?
Honestly, I have no idea. I'll tell you if I'm going to be straightforward with you on that one.
This is where I
It's
point out the hypocrisy,
right,
not what we're trying to get to, because
right,
it's
right, right.
wrong regardless. When you
Yeah,
have a people taking land from another country,
right,
it'd be like, what if China showed up and said, "We're taking Florida. It's
right,
ours." Okay, you have debt, you haven't paid it. We're collecting. Florida is ours. And we're going to take Georgia and Alabama also because that's interest.
right.
Okay. Are we going to stand there and let them do it? No.
Definitely not.
Okay. Now, I hear a lot of people, well, we're funding Nazis by funding Ukraine. Well, we have Nazis here in the United States.
Yeah,
Okay. So you can't make up excuses on why we should or shouldn't. It comes down to what is right or wrong, and to
right.
allow another country to take another country. So this is why we're interjecting, is because this shouldn't be happening. But if we're going to do that, it needs to apply everywhere.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm a
This
little
is why
baffled by all that as
this
well.
is why
So
I get so sick of the whole left and the right,
mm,
because they push what fits their agenda for that moment, and
right,
then they claim something else for that moment. All right.
right.
Now, did you know that we have legislation prior to the Ukraine war, the Ukraine Russian war,
Mm,
that HR 6119 from the 117th Congress, when you read through it, basically it's about putting up another military base in Afghanistan. Now,
Okay.
if you read the Burma Act, you read the Taiwan Supply Chain Act. There's so many bills that were proposed, and they're all proposed by Democrats. Over 30 war bills proposed by Democrats under the guise of humanitarian purposes. You see, this is why I don't like either side, because they propagate one thing and they turn around and do another. Now, this isn't a pick on you because you're leaning left, because, like I said, I'm a leftist.
Right.
Because I believe in humanitarian values first. Human rights, number one.
Right.
Okay. Above everything else. I'm all for defending Ukraine, but I'm also all for defending Palestine.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm going to get a lot of flack from that. Okay. I'm going to get a lot of flack from that. But we can't take land from people, and we can't allow another country to take land from a people when it's theirs. And I don't care who they are or what their thing is. If we're going to be uniform in it, we need to be uniform in it. It's kind of like when we were first talking about like housing here in the United States.
Right.
Okay. This goes back to corporate greed. There's no money in helping the homeless.
Exactly. Yep.
Because if there was money in helping the homeless, it would already be solved. Now, long term, there's money in helping the homeless. Long term.
Right.
None of them want the long term. Because long term, if you house them, educate them, and make them a productive member of society again, they're going to help produce. They're going to help consume. Okay.
Right.
It's kind of like we have a prison system here. We have the largest incarcerated population in the world. And yet, why? Money. It's all about making money. We have impoverished people. Why? It's about making money. Corporations don't want to pay a cost of living wage. See, these are all the things that I want to get people to start looking at and thinking about versus my party says this or my party says this. I want people to start looking at things for what they are. What does every family, every single person, every couple, every human being want? They want a roof over their head, food in their stomach. To have the roof over your head and the food in your stomach, you need a job. And to be able to access jobs that, can get you more, you need an education. Okay? You need good health. Health, education, job, roof over your head, food in your stomach. If you have that, if people could get back to the basics of these are the things that I want. This way I can provide for my children. I can give them a better life, a better education, a better this, a better that, a better this, and a better that. I can do better for my children than I did for myself. This is what's going to, again, this is what we need to, this is what we need people to do to start looking at to get back into this mode of thinking about human beings as human beings again. Because right now, people don't look at human beings as human beings. They look at them as, what party are you in? What party do you...
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I call myself a Democrat because that's 99.9% of the time how I'm going to vote. Right.
Right.
But do I think like the running of the party as a whole is how I'd like it to be? No, I don't. I mean, I'm not saying it's all bad, but I cannot say it's all good. And there's a lot of things that if I could go in there and tool with it, I would definitely change. But, every time there's an election, like when they hadn't decided on Biden as a candidate, right? There were people who were like, well, if it's not Bernie, I'm not going to vote for whoever, which I understand. Like Bernie was more in line with me too. But every time there's election, I see it like trying to steer a ship in a storm. You're not going to get the exact path you want. You may not end up in the exact right spot you want. You're trying to get it going in the general direction you'd like it to be. Because if you can get it going in that direction, maybe you can continue to fine tune it until you get it where it has to be. There's a lot of changes that if I could snap my finger and make them happen, I would do it. But
Yes.
the sad fact is that it's going to have to be incremental. As much as I would like it to be otherwise, it's about moving where that middle line is away from the right, to, in my opinion, towards the left, where we can start doing the things that the people who are in the far left actually would really like to do.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to hold them up as being all necessarily perfect either, but I'm far more in line with the people who are, on the farther left end than the ones who are more in the center. Like, Biden was not my guy when the
Right.
choices were up there.
Not mine either.
He has done all right, and I voted for him. I happily voted for him because the alternative was insane. But it's all a matter of trying to get the ship going in the direction you want and try to fine tune it as you go, and hopefully we'll end up where we need to be.
Mm-hmm. C. Shadow Fox says people are a resource like coal, a commodity. Yes, that's how people are looked at. If you're not in the top 1%, top 10%, some people might say, yes, you are a commodity. You are a commodity.
Yep.
And that's how we're looked at. That's how we're treated. And that's how we are used as a commodity.
Yep. Yeah, most of our jobs were all at least seen as very expendable, whether that's accurate or not.
Mhm.
They're happy to replace you to just get another, cog in the wheel, keep the engine running,
Yep.
and that's what it is. And it's sad, but that's just
Yep.
kind of what our system has let it become, I think.
Yes. All right. So, what is your view on the overturning? Oh, hold on. We are
Yep.
even traded. Yes.
Yep. I can't
What
argue.
is your view on the overturning of Roe v. Wade?
Okay, I'm glad we're getting to the light topics now. Excuse me, sorry about that. Okay, so I'll get out of the way first off that I am very much pro-choice. Okay, I've said for a long time before this was even a thing that came up, this possible overturning, that this was a fight that was going to last forever. It was never going to go away unless a massive societal change happened, because you have one side that believes that abortion is murder under any circumstance, right? And you have another side that thinks it's not. And you can't find a middle ground between those two ideas. There's not like partial murder. That's not a thing, right? So you have these two very opposite views with no middle ground at all. So I could not see how this would ever go away. That being said, whenever I first thought that up, I didn't expect it to ever actually switch back to this. So there's a lot of problems with this. First off, just talking in a practical sense, okay? Not even this could be about anything, okay? It's damaged people's faith in the Supreme Court because they've taken things that they say this is established law. This is what we have decided as a nation is going to be the case. These are the rights that you have. And now, because of the partisanship in the court, they've switched it. I know there's conservative justices and liberal ones. It is supposed to be a nonpartisan entity. It's supposed to be one that says this is the law as written and understood, and that's what we follow, and we'll be the final ones to decide when a weird conflict comes up, right? And instead they undid a very specific law. Like this, it wasn't hazy. They just went back on it. So already that's a problem, because you've taken a major part of our government and said, okay, this is no longer a reliable thing. Our rules of law are now very fluid. They don't mean anything. You can't count on any of it. That's what they did with that.
Yes.
So that's terrible. Then getting to the specifics of this issue, so much of this is not anything that people haven't heard before, but you aren't ending abortion when you do this. You're ending safe abortions when you do this, right? People are still going to get them if that's what they want to do. And here's the funny thing, and I cover this in a video that I'm working on editing right now. one of the arguments against gun control is that we shouldn't make it illegal. People will just get them anyway. But those same people will not apply that to abortion. And the stakes here are much worse because when people go get abortions anyway, a lot of the times they die. This is no joke. So now we're talking about these people will go, they're going to do it if they feel like they have to. And this will be a desperation choice when they do. But they're going to go, possibly die. And now, because of this law, they have killed both the person that they've decided is a full human now, right? The fetus, and the woman who went and got the abortion. So now we've killed two instead of what they would see as one. So kind of nonsensical. You have, various states that have the rules so tight, like there's no exception. So if a woman is going septic because she's had a miscarriage, she can't get it removed. The doctors can't do it legally, and they have to fly the mother somewhere, hopefully in time to save her. This has already happened before. This is not even a hypothetical. This has happened since this went into effect. People are dying needlessly, and the doctors aren't even allowed to save their lives in cases.
And have you noticed how little it's covered in the media?
Yeah,
Since it's overturning, how little it's covered in the media. Okay.
Yeah, you hear it as a general concept, but not in those kind of specifics.
Yep. When I was a bounty hunter in Nevada, I was a bounty hunter in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And somebody that I was searching for, we located a storage unit that belonged to him, and we thought that maybe it was possible he was staying there. So we entered it, opened it up, and what my instructor, because I was also going to the College of Southern Nevada, what my instructor says that it's called a butcher shop.
Right.
And it was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, this was while abortion was legal. Okay. And there are over 100,000 women a year that die due to this. There are, it's horrible.
Right.
And now that abortion has been criminalized in many states, that number is going to go up tremendously.
Yeah.
Okay. And nobody is talking about this in the media now. It's kind of like the Democrats got their votes, and now it's like, shh, don't talk about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Republicans lost, but shh, don't push it anymore because we'll lose more people. Okay.
Right. I feel like there were, during the elections, there were a lot of people who ran like saying, we are going to protect your right to choice, which is great. But I feel like this is something that should be constantly screamed about, frankly, because it's such a massive thing. I know some people are personally screaming about it, but
here's what's sad is that the Democrats could have codified it multiple times and didn't. Okay. The standing that it was on was weak. Okay. Even though it was case law, it had precedence. It was still weak and could be overturned, and was.
Right.
Okay. There's a lot of things that we have to do in this country to solidify rights of human beings. Okay.
Agreed.
Because right now, and again, I go through this, if the Constitution meant that everybody was equal, why did we have the 15th Amendment? 15th Amendment gave minorities the right to vote. If they were already equal under the Constitution, there was no need for an amendment. They should have just simply had the right to vote. The 19th Amendment, where we gave women the right to vote. If they were already equal, according to the Constitution, everybody's equal, then they're already covered. But we had to write an amendment because the Supreme Court decided that they weren't, which
Right.
means minorities and women are not protected under the Constitution, which means the 14th Amendment is null and void in the protections of Roe v. Wade, meaning that women have no rights. All right.
Mm.
This is what the Republican Party is doing, is taking away the rights of women, of minorities, of anybody they can that's not like them, propagating what they want. And people
Right.
don't see this yet. There's a lot of people that do not see this yet.
Right.
All right. You look at the banning of books, you look at the LGBTQIA community and how it's being hammered by a lot of these right wingers in a multitude of different ways. Okay. This is a removal of rights. And what it's going to come down to, you're going to have to be a white male evangelical to have any rights, and a property owner.
Right.
Okay. Because this is the basis of the Constitution until we change it. That's why I wrote an equal rights amendment in my book, a true equal rights amendment that would eliminate this discrimination, that would codify it into our Constitution. Because until we do, these things are going to continue to happen. Women's right to bodily autonomy has been taken away by one side because it wasn't codified by the other side.
Yeah.
Why didn't they codify it? Because they knew this was going to happen. They allowed it to happen. They wanted to hold that so they could get the votes, because when it comes to the parties, all they care about is getting the votes.
Yeah.
All
that's what I was
votes.
That's kind of what I was thinking, is because if you were, anytime in the last 50 years, if you're a Democrat, running for whatever important position, really, if you were all like, yeah, let's codify Roe v. Wade, that there's no chance that you will pull over some of the evangelical votes. Like, you already don't have a great shot, but maybe, right? So you figure you're cutting down your chances further and further of getting voted into whatever office you're trying to get to. And people are just afraid to put it on the line and do the things they need to because they're trying to please the center, which is probably a good political strategy, but it's not actually good for humans. It's not good for the people. And I think they could deliver that message in a way that people would get it, but instead they just decide, nah, we're just going to play it safe. You know what I mean?
Do you remember Jesse the Body Ventura?
Of course, I remember Jesse the Body Ventura. Yep.
Okay. Jesse Ventura wants to eliminate all political parties. Okay.
Right.
I talked about that in my book, Eliminate All Political Parties. Okay. Here's the reason why for this. Okay. If you're on the left, odds are when you go down that ticket, anyone with a D in front of their name, you're going to vote for, aren't you?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Those that are on the right, anyone with an R in front of their name, that's who they're going to vote for. You're
Right.
you're not changing their minds on who they're going to vote for. Do you know who determines who gets elected to office in any of these close places? I'm an independent.
Right.
I may vote on the right or I may vote on the left. How are you going to sway me? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I no longer see these politicians as Democrats and Republicans. I see them as corporate politicians and humanitarian politicians. I think there's only about 6 to 10 humanitarian politicians out of 535 people between the House and the Senate. The rest of them are corporate politicians. They don't give a fuck about me. They don't care about you. They don't care about anyone other than the corporations pulling the puppet strings. Those humanitarians, they can't get shit done. There's not enough of them to get anything done. And they don't have the backbone to put up the fight to get it done. I challenge any of them, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Cori Bush, any of them. Come on here and have a conversation with me. Okay? Because I can tell you how to get it done and how to get the people behind you. But guess what? I only got 179 subscribers. I don't have that reach to get out to people.
Right.
Okay? Because if I had that reach and my voice was being heard, trust me when I tell you, people would want to see this kind of change because they're tired. They are tired of working a minimum wage job and a minimum wage job and a minimum wage job to put food on the table. They are tired of not being able to go to school to improve their lifestyle. They are tired of all the politics and the left saying this and the right saying this, and we're going to war here, and we're putting people out here, and we're burning books here, and we're banning books there. They're tired of all this bullshit. They want it all to come to an end. They want to be able to put food on the table and go to work and not have to talk about politics and religion and the weather with anybody. Back like it used to be 40, 50 years ago. They want to be able to enjoy their life again, but everything is political. Everything is, which side are you on? Because if you're not on my side, I don't like you. You know? And this is where I'm trying to get people to understand. Yes, there is humanitarian aspects that need to be addressed, and that's where we need to focus. We need to focus on the humanitarian values in this country. And until we do that, and granted, a majority of the people that I talk to that are on the left, not the politicians, but the people that vote on the left, I find that the majority of them are a lot happier, a lot kinder, a lot nicer, a lot more open-minded. More of them are critical thinkers than what I see those on the right, because those that are on the right have all of this hate bound up in them and just want to yell and scream at people and accuse them of this and that and blah, 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 because they've followed the propaganda. But now I want you to remember, though, the propaganda that's being put out there is for both sides. And this is why both sides hate each other. They would sit back down and have a conversation and actually listen to each other, they might be able to have a conversation and get back to doing things that are meaningful for us, the people.
You know, I think so. I agree with what you're saying. My concern about it is not that I think it's wrong. It's that I don't know. I feel like we're past the point where it's possible. I hope I'm wrong. I 100% hope I'm wrong. But the thing that I feel that the right has that the left really doesn't, I mean, and this is not about any specific policy. This is just a tool in their arsenal. Is they have, their big propaganda machine in Fox News. They had Rush Limbaugh for a while. They have, all these talk radio guys. They have, Breitbart. They have all this other stuff, which is, full of nonsense. But what it does, unfortunately, through misinformation, is it energizes the people. And I mean, it's propaganda. It's like what you're saying. And I'm not saying the left doesn't have propaganda. They do. But it doesn't do the same. It can't energize people the same way, or it hasn't energized people the same way. There's reporters on the left who I enjoy listening to. I don't usually watch. I listen to them as podcasts. So like, I think Rachel Maddow is a really smart woman. I agree with her on a lot, but she's very, she seems to me, I should say, to be very like Democrat Party, right there with like the establishment Democrat. Fine, whatever. But like, and that's fine if that's how she feels about things. Great, that's cool. But it's not enough to get the Democrat or the left leaning progressives, frothing to get change. And there needs to be that level of pressure. But of course, the problem is with what I'm saying, and I admit this, is that it doesn't bring people to the table together.
Nope.
It probably actually pushes people further apart. But like, I'm talking myself in circles, so forgive me. But like, it's very hard for me to see, like, if I'm in Congress, okay, and I'm not saying I'm in line with every single thing, but let's say my thoughts are much like AOC's, right? Okay.
Mhm.
If I want to try to reach across the table to Lauren Boebert, she's going to stab my hand with a fork. Let's be honest. She's not going to meet me in the middle. She's going to draw a line real close to her and say, come over here.
Mhm.
That's what they're going to do.
Right.
So it's, and granted, we're talking about politicians there. And on a personal level, it can be different, but it's very hard to find those people. If I go to someone wearing a Make America Great Again hat, I think I'm a nice person. Okay. I think I get along with people pretty well. I have almost zero confidence that I could sit there and have a reasonable discussion with that person. And that may be unfair on my part. It probably is in some cases, But this is what I mean. I feel like, and you could, if you disagree, that's totally fine. You may be seeing a lot of things I don't. That's totally cool. I feel like we've gotten to the point, because of all the various reasons that are out there, mostly the extreme medias, that we don't have the things that we all agree on anymore. I mean, we do sort of, but we're both living in different realities now.
Mhm.
You know, the Democrats believe one thing is reality and Republicans agree another thing is reality. And those things are very different.
Mhm.
And just like the abortion issue, like it's like there's no middle ground anymore to meet someone on. I would love for there to be, but I'm having more and more trouble seeing that every day.
Right. See, the Democrats and Republicans of old, they would agree that this is a problem. I'm going to come from it this way. I'm going to come from that way. We're going to negotiate and we're going to come up with a solution. Now they can't even agree that this is a problem.
Right.
Okay. So there's no negotiating. Now, in the everyday world, politicians aside, when I do spaces, when I engage in the real world, I try to have an open conversation. I'm always kind, I'm always polite, and I will try to engage a little bit without going too deep, because I don't want them to think I'm a leftist. I want them to think that I'm a person that they can have a conversation with. And I don't want them to think that I look at them as a rightist. Okay. I want them to open up and have a conversation. Now, granted, I do believe that you're right that we've gotten to a place where that is a very difficult thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But does that mean we quit? No. We have to continue to try. And I'm not trying to bring somebody on the right over to the left. I'm just trying to bring somebody over on the right and people on the left to open up their minds to a different way of thinking.
Right.
Critical thinking. Critical thinking. Premise A, premise B, conclusion. Now think about that for a while. And maybe a couple weeks down the road, you might want to check into this and look into it. And maybe your view might change. But hey, in the meantime, hey, nice conversation. I love you. And, maybe we can talk again in the future, And as long as I can keep it in a peaceful manner and the person's willing to keep it in a peaceful manner, I think that we can start making some new bridges, because there's a lot of bridges that have been burnt down and people just aren't willing to rebuild some new ones. And I think we got to start rebuilding new ones. Now, there are a lot of people that say, I'm not negotiating with a racist. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That racist is never going to come to terms with how wrong they are if you don't have a conversation with them. If
Yeah.
you can't engage in conversation, just to hopefully open their eyes up to see that how they see is not the right way, then you're allowing them to teach others their belief system of hatred. So I look at it as I like to have conversations with everybody. Now, granted, there does come a limit of tolerating people. As my friend Bryce, who does a Stoic panel on Sundays, reads from Marcus Aurelius. We have to tolerate everybody else. We're here and we have to be tolerant to everyone. We don't have to like them, but we have to tolerate them. Why not try to engage a little bit and maybe find some common ground?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if I get into a situation where I can talk to somebody like that, I'm all for doing that. I have no problem with that. If I have a very low opinion of Miss Lauren Boebert, who keeps coming up in this conversation, but somehow if we end up seated at a table by each other and she wants to actually talk about stuff, I'll talk with her.
Yes.
I will be waiting for something horrible to happen, but I'll talk with the woman. That's fine.
If Lauren Boebert wanted to come on my show, I would have her on here in a heartbeat. If Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to come on my show, I'd have her on here in a heartbeat. Probably not Matt Gaetz. I just don't like his personality. There'd be
he's yeah.
But pretty much anybody else, McCarthy. I would love to have McCarthy on my show. I would love to have a conversation with McCarthy. I would hope that it could be a good conversation to where we could actually talk about things, though I doubt it. I think it would probably last about 10 minutes and he would end up, clicking off. But, or he would try deflecting everything. But I would still try to engage. And that's my point. I would still try to engage. I would love to be on Tucker Carlson. I'd go on Tucker Carlson, and I would try to have a conversation. Unfortunately, after about 5 to 10 minutes, I'd probably, take the mic off, stand up, and walk.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much that, you can, to tolerate doesn't mean to brawl with. Okay.
Right.
Shadow Fox, who's, in here is one of our guests, like she says, don't fight, find solutions. And because fighting is never ending,
Right.
A fight goes on and on and on. Well, they beat me here. I'm going to get them back. I'm going to block. A fight never ends. I don't want to fight with anybody. I want to converse, and this is where we're at in the world right now is everybody wants to fight. Everybody's got this anger and this hatred and everything, and everybody wants to fight with everybody. I want to try to bring people together to have a conversation, and sure. That's my goal. That's why I have my show. In the moment, let's have a conversation.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's great. And I have no problem admitting sometimes I have trouble looking at things that way. I want to, I really do. My heart of hearts, I'm a very gentle person.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get along with everybody. But it is very hard because of some of the things that have happened that people have accepted.
Yes.
And I see someone who's like, excuse me, that was okay with the whole family separation thing. There were already too many straws on that camel's back, and that dropped a load of bricks on it. That was so far beyond what I can tolerate that I see someone still wearing a MAGA hat. And it is hard for me to not look at that person as practically wearing a swastika and an SS logo. I hate to say that, but honest to God, that's how it feels to me. And I don't want to feel that way. I want to believe that underneath that red hat, there is a rational person that can be reached and can maybe understand things, or at least to the point where they can say, okay, maybe that wasn't the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even that would be progress in some way.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
it's kind of like what, again, I'm going to refer back to my friend Bryce and all that, you know.
Mhm.
Bryce, you know, he likes to have conversations with people that want to enter a conversation in good faith.
Right.
Okay. And when they're coming into a conversation and all they're there to do is just to respond, in other words, they're waiting for you to say something so they can just start slamming on it because that's all they care about.
Right.
You are wasting your time having a conversation with somebody that doesn't want to have a good faith conversation. And even I will walk away from that person that doesn't want to have that good faith conversation. But if they're willing to have a good faith conversation, I'll have it with them, you know.
Sure.
And like I said, it is hard to do because my opinions, my belief systems, my knowledges, my investigative information that I've researched and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that I know are, and they want to insist are not. And it's just like systemic discrimination. There are people, especially on the far right, that don't believe systemic discrimination even exists.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it does. It does. And no matter what I put in front of them, they're still going to insist it doesn't. And what this tells me is that they know it exists. They know it exists.
Yeah.
They're just there to argue that it doesn't because they want to be right.
Yep.
Okay. Just like this whole war on being woke. Okay. To acknowledge that people are woke is to acknowledge the injustices that the woke people are trying to fight against, which means you yourself then are woke because you know about the injustices. You just don't want them fixed. So you're just as woke as I am. Difference is I'm fighting to fix the injustices where you're trying to cement them in. And that's how people are. So it is a battle, David. It is a battle, but we got to keep fighting it, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I fight within myself to not be in battle mode constantly. Cause I feel like sometimes I've been pushed to that point and I'm trying, I really am trying not to be that guy, but it's rough, you know, you got to be really mindful of it. And, you know, take a second to see if someone is being, you know, able to be in a conversation, you know, and actually listen. Cause I will listen to why they think things are a certain way, but I have to be listened to as well. And that's just kind of how it is. So.
Yeah, definitely. All right, everybody. Remember, check out David at youtube.com/at leaning left. I'll leave that up there for a second if you want to write it down. There we go. And then we have youtube.com/C/all games new and old. All games new and old. Please check out his YouTube channels. Please click like and subscribe. Follow him on Twitter at Leaning Left Show. Like I said, great conversation.
Absolutely.
We're going to have to do this again. I'm going to have you a guest on one of my shows and all that, and get you on there. Yes, definitely get you on there. Help promote both of your channels. And again, I hope people watch the replay on this and check you out. You know, great conversation, David. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This has been it's been a lot of fun.
It's a pleasure. Remember, everyone, be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way. Thank you.